We kick off with high pressure, but we end this week with low pressure. Hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our weather forecast for the week ahead. And as I say, high pressure is in charge, or at least it was. It slipped off a little bit to our east. But as a result of that, we've got a fairly mild subtropical breeze. Now, not everyone has the warmth. Some of you are still having to put the fires on and the heat pumps on because we're getting cold nights. But at the moment, and a bit cloudy as well, fairly gloomy sort of Monday around the very upper part of the country with a breeze coming straight off the sea. But the further south and the further inland you are, the warmer this week kicks off as most of the breezes coming down around New Zealand are from that northerly subtropical quarter. Now let's go through into Tuesday, and you see what I mean. Warmer winds coming down across the country. High pressure is out to our east, and there is the developing low pressure. So we've got the typical nor'west setup, a little bit of rain on the western side. In fact, the west coast leans wetter than average this week, and the only other place that leans a little bit wetter than average looks as though maybe the very upper North Island just might get enough rain in there to tip it that way. Otherwise, eastern and central areas look fairly dry. So Tuesday's got those warmer northerly winds, so too does Wednesday. Down they come, but that low in the Tasman finally starting to deepen, and in fact it covers much of the Tasman Sea area on Wednesday. Just a little bit of rain though coming in for New Zealand down around the west coast, and maybe a little bit spilling over into Southland. It's a little bit 50-50 for you. Otherwise, more dry, mild weather with those northerly breezes. And on Thursday, those northerly winds continue, nor'westers in fact, around the North Island. Another mild day, mild night, and the temperatures out to the east will be the highest. But the low does drift in now, and it brings in rain to the west coast, right across the west coast, with some spilling over a little bit into Canterbury, mostly in the foothills, and it won't be too much in there. But as you can see, we do have a little bit of wet weather coming through, and it starts to get colder later on Thursday in the south, which basically gives way to a colder Friday. It's a little bit tricky to see. You know, we're used to seeing a straight southerly coming in, and that's how you work out it's cold. In this case, it might be coming in as an easterly, but still winter conditions return to Southland and Otago later this week. Could be some lower level snow, 300, 400, 500 meters again, and the wind chill effect for the newborn livestock will be tough. With that wet weather and the southeast winds coming in, it's a bit of a bleak day. But at the other end of the country, northerly winds or nor'westers, and while it is still cloudy and a little bit wet, it's still fairly mild at the end of the week. And our final map for Saturday shows basically two different stories in two different islands. You've got a colder southeasterly wind coming into the South Island, snow on the ranges around Kaikoura, rain on the west coast, but the North Island looks fairly fickle. We don't really have a lot of wind blowing around. The air pressure isn't big, not high or low. It's right in that average zone. So probably all eyes will be down around the South Island to see what happens there. And the last thing to mention, look at this big high coming down here. Now what that does, even with your cold Saturday, that will start to lock off and block away those colder southerlies we've been getting. So it's not all bad news. We've got a bit of a reset button being hit this week after the cold change last week. So enjoy the warmer weather we've got this week. Make the most of it. We're still in the middle of spring. In fact, we are in peak spring, which means very changeable, chaotic weather for at least another month. That's all from me. We'll see you again tomorrow.